Without objection, I'm going to go ahead and admit the binder as staff's exhibit 1. We'll go ahead and publish that to the commission as well. Any other housekeeping matters that we need to?
I actually have one other binder exhibit also,
Okay.
which
Has Mr. Smith and Mr. Hancock had an opportunity to look at this one?
this is the certified minutes from that were filed with the Pulaski County Circuit Clerk's Office. With the stipulation, we agreed that the minutes were what they are. These are
That's
just
already part of the stipulation. All right. Is that?
That's correct. We're not necessarily stipulating that the facts within the minutes, but we agree that those are the minutes. That's what it is.
Right. All right. So we will go ahead and mark that as staff commission exhibit number 2. And without objection, admit that. Commissioners, you're getting crushed with paper binders.
States 3 and States 4. States 3 will be the November 16th certification, which is part of the certification on November 16th. There's the signed record, file marked with the county clerk. And state September 4 will be November 18th certification. That is signed.
Any objection, Mr. Hancock, Mr. Smith?
No. No, sir.
All right. Without objection, states 3 and states 4, I should say, states, I'm going to call it commission's exhibit, or staff commission's exhibit 3 and 4.
Sir, I don't object to them being introduced. It's just we would know for the record that it's really there on it, please.
Okay, thank you.
I actually have, we talked about the over 16. Yeah, I actually have the full version of it. I just excerpted it. I don't know. Is it the version? I think it's going to hand out as an excerpt. It shows the signature copy, blue copy, and then the end of it shows what's number pages. We actually have the book here. That's also second.
Yeah, we would, I think we're fine with this for now. I don't think it's necessary for the commission to be drowned in this big book of material that isn't necessarily the focal point, but if we get to that point, we'll deal with it.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Madison?
I think one of the ones we've got in terms of ordinary action.
We have one housekeeping issue, Mr. Hearing Officer, Mr. Chair. My client has a health issue that requires her to move around from time to time, so I just want to state for the record that as she steps out, it's just what she needs to do to manage that issue. She's given leave for the proceedings to continue in her absence, and I just want the commissioners to know she's not taking it seriously.
Understood. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the information. Council, I don't know if you want to do opening statements. I think you already set the table in terms of your motions. They may be a little bit redundant, but I certainly would give you the opportunity to do opening statements if you would like to.
I would like a 5-minute open statement possible.
Okay.
I would like a 7-minute open statement.
Well, you know, that's 2 minutes over the standard 5.
I'm a circuit report guy, and much like Abe Lincoln, I deal by the word.
Mr. Hancock, for both 5 minutes?
5 minutes.
Okay. All right, Mr. Madison. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Hearing Officer. Members of the board, thank you for presiding today. Thank you for your efforts in resolving these issues as we work through this nice election. As you all are well aware, because you have been here and participated, you're aware of the challenges that Pulaski County had. I think, as based on the stipulations that we had today, the underlying facts are not in dispute. They're not. The staff and the election commission had challenges with one another. I don't think there's any dispute to that. I think that the evidence is going to show that the lack of decisive action by the commission, however, is part of the responsibility. And the question that I think ultimately you're going to be faced with today is, who's accountable for this car wreck? Whose car is it, and who's responsible for it? And I anticipate the evidence is, that staff was difficult. Staff wasn't doing what they were told. Staff wasn't this. Staff wasn't that. But I think the evidence is also going to show that the ballots that were ultimately disqualified and improperly tabulated were directly handled by the commission, the commissioners themselves. And I will give credit. They held marathon meetings. They worked diligently starting at 7:30 election night. But they had a tidal wave of work to do. And I think the evidence will show that they knew this tidal wave was coming as far back as July. And yet, they didn't prepare for it. Now, all the evidence and all the investigations that we've done, the state has done in these, have shown that for the vast majority of voters, their voting experience in Pulaski County was good. However, the board has a fundamental responsibility, a core responsibility to tabulate lawful ballots, period, in dispute. And as the facts have already been stipulated to, that did not happen. So the question then becomes, what's the legal ramifications of this misdeed? And that's the issue that you're charged with today. Now, my opposing counsel here is talking about the county judge or the staff. And I ask you, where in the law does it impose the duty on the county judge? Where in the law does it impose the duty to ensure the legal compliance of the election on a director of elections in Pulaski County? It's not in there. As I said in my original opening, the buck stops there. Now, it's nothing personal. It's nothing. I think they were dealing with a bad hand. I think the evidence will show that. I'll stipulate they were dealing with challenging circumstances. But at the end of the day, who's responsible for the conduct of elections? Our system is set up for local control of elections. Local control means local responsibility. They delegated tasks to staff and to poll workers. And the Jefferson County case of the Arkansas Supreme Court is perfectly clear. If they're not doing election official work the way you want to, you yank your certification. And in fact, they did that after the election, I suppose. But they knew going in the problems were going to happen. And yet they did not exercise some of the authority that they clearly had. They could have, they should have been there to supervise the county judges. That is their responsibility. There is no dispute as to the certification. They knew when they certified those ballots that it included improper, they did their final certification, it included improper ballots. They knew that they had ballots being found in boxes that were in the wrong boxes. This happened again and again and again. And lastly, my time is is up. And lastly,
30 seconds.
Give him 7 minutes, that's what I asked.
and lastly, they didn't do the election night reporting. You call that provisional. And because of all of the other confusion, we didn't have a defined universe. So we didn't know we didn't know where we were or where we were going. I think that's what the evidence will show. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Madison. Mr. Smith, I'll split the baby with you between the 5 and 7 and give you 6. How's that sound?
I will make do with this I can.
Go ahead, sir.
I believe.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Hancock.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Thank you for the opportunity, and thank the commissioners for this opportunity also. Let me just say a few things. Mrs. Gomez is a mother. She's a committed employee. She's a dedicated public servant. And she was, in fact, the chair of the Pulaski County Election Commission as it relates, and what we're here for today, the 2020 general election held in November. Now, as I believe the documentation, specifically the exhibits, the executive orders from County Judge Hyde indicate, and the stipulations also indicate, 2020 was a very challenging year, not only in terms of the election, but in terms of health, folks' health in general, accessing, in this case, government offices and buildings, having access to computers, election materials. I don't think those things are in dispute, and I think the evidence demonstrates that that is a part of what happened as it relates to the allegations in these cases. Now, specifically, we're talking about, we had, and I think the stipulation is, and the evidence will show that we're talking about Pulaski County election workers telling Mrs. Gomez and Ms. Starr that they can't come into the building, that they can't have access to the election materials. We're talking about the Pulaski County employees, which Mrs. Starr and Mrs. Gomez had no control of as it relates to their employment. Yes, they could have decertified those folks, but what are we talking about if we decertify all of those folks that are tasked with completing and making sure the election is running? We're talking about there's nobody to do the job. So we had to have at least some folks to help run this election. Now, were there missteps? Yes, and I think those facts are stipulated too. There was a misstep that, with regard to the 326 ballots. Those ballots, the responsibility for those ballots were at the hands of Mr. Poe, who admitted that he is the person that is responsible for that problem in this election. Now, Mr. Madison wants to say, hey, well, Ms. Starr and Ms. Gomez should also be held responsible not only for the acts of Mr. Poe, but also some of the acts of the county employees. Well, I think the evidence will show that not only was the Pulaski County Board is tasked with doing and making sure the election is proper and just, but also the commissioners on this board also have that task. And specifically, if you look at the statute, it's 74101, talks about the duties of this board to assist. I haven't heard Mr. Madison indicate to this board that they in any way, or he in any way, attempted to assist in the Pulaski County election as it related to these issues. And if you look at the issue not only with the county, but also the issue with the certification to the Secretary of State, the issue with when to certify. All of those things could have also been at the feet and hands of Mr. Madison and commissioners on this board. Now, is that what we're asking to happen here? Not only is Commissioner Gomez, but also Commissioner Starr, are they not only responsible, but is this board, as commissioners, also responsible for what happened? Well, under Mr. Madison's theory, that's where we're at. Now, we shouldn't let the acts of some of the employees of the county and individuals like Mr. Poe be imputed to Mrs. Gomez and Mrs. Starr. I don't think the law allows for it, and I don't think it's fair and proper to let the blame lie at their feet when they did everything possible that they could to ensure a fair and free election. I think the evidence will demonstrate that, and we're asking the board to find these complaints without merit. And let me speak to one other thing, and that is this issue with whether or not we're talking about the commissioners being in their personal or capacity as commissioners with the Pulaski County election board.
Yeah, one moment, Mr. Hancock. Good.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, as Mr. Smith alluded to in his motion, we're talking about official capacity, and we can't, if we're saying that they've done something wrong in their official capacity, then you're necessarily implicating the board itself. So I would ask this commission and board to consider, if it considers sanctions and punishment, it should be with respect to the board, not Ms. Starr or Ms. Gomez, whatever capacity.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hancock. Mr. Smith?
These ladies